The Great Steppe, millenniums of events, hundreds of nomadic tribes and people. They lived, worked, made discoveries, conquered large tracts of lands, and left us some mysteries. To learn more about it, watch the project called Enigma of the Great Steppe. Tales and legends about prominent women take a special place in steppe chronicles. These females lived divided by hundreds of years and thousands of kilometers. Some were representatives of noble clans, others were famous because of their heroic deeds. The rest were charismatic and possessed a number of features that were held in high esteem in the steppe. Tales of female nomads used to excite people's imagination no less than 1,001 nights. Pioneer travelers, when describing their impressions from their encounters with steppe women, used to say that they have never met females who would possess similar temperament and spirit. In this episode, we will tell you about some of these women, for their lives and destinies are still surrounded by various speculations, incoherent information, hypotheses, and mysteries. Their women has more liberties than a Kalmyk woman. She takes part in different celebrations. Special yurts are erected for women. It is often that celebrations and feasts organized exclusively for women take place. Neither young girls nor women cover their faces. They take part in every council. They play games, sing with men in choir, and participate in singing competitions. The first heroines of our story lived in one of the most important periods of our history. At the turn of the 18th to the 19th centuries, part of the Kazakh steppe fell under the protectorate of the Russian Empire. Its active advancement into Central Asian territory, as well as its colonial policy, came up against the resistance of the nomads. And three extraordinary women were in the thick of it all. They faced a choice of taking a side and leading their fellow tribesmen. Two of them belonged to the most noble family, the Tore, descendants of Genghissid. Their names were Aiganim and Bopai. How did they start their confrontation? What kind of men surrounded them? And why the history of these influential steppe women is not so unequivocal.
The
thing is that during the Soviet era, many things were restricted. Historians were restricted by the Soviet ideology, and the writers had to step forward. Ilyas Yesin Berlin, who has thoroughly studied archives, created his trilogy. One of three books is called Kokhar. In his book, he wrote about Genghissid Kasimov's uprising. But his name wasn't supposed to be mentioned in articles and books, and that's how we lost things that we could have preserved. But writer Yesin Berlin has done a tremendous work, the work that was supposed to be done by historians. Now the historians have to follow the traces of his trilogy because Ilyas Yesin Berlin used lots of materials when he was writing his novel. Is mentioned Bopai, Aiganim, and Genghissid, and many other people too. They all are historical personalities. Thus, it is a great manual for anyone who only reads online. In 1822, the Emperor Alexander I issued a decree that abolished Khan's power in the Kazakh steppe. Part of the nomadic elite opposed the new administrative order. The largest and the most influential Kasimov family of the Middle Jews, descendants of Ablai Khan's clan, a statesman who managed to unite all three Juzes in the 18th century, resisted the most. Genghissid's father and all his relatives migrated to the Khanate of the Kokand. His supporters began their devastating raids on the Volost and ruined the villages that subdued to Russian administration. I want to tell you about a heroine, about Genghissid Kasimov's elder sister Bopai. She had several children. I don't remember how many, 4 or 6. She offered her husband to join her brothers, Genghissid Kasimov's uprising. He refused. Instead of punishing him for being a coward, her children's father, she abandoned him and joined Genghissid Kasimov's army. She led a large detachment of Jigids, and there were some women warriors in this detachment too. And she actively participated in Genghissid's most desperate battles. Bopai, Genghissid's sister, it is clear that she, being a Genghissid, was brought up like this. I don't know if she knew how to embroider or not. I highly doubt it. Felting, embroidery, these were the activities performed by women of a certain social status. In a society that had a clear division, however, the rules and customs of upbringing extended to those who had to take place of their fathers and brothers in the conditions of tragic or critical situations. They were supposed to assist their husbands and brothers. Bopai deserved her place in the military council not because of the fact that she was his sister, but because she was a true military leader. She led a large detachment which Genghissid used for critical moments. He trusted her. Moreover, he listened to her. Because of two reasons, she was older than him, and one is supposed to listen to older people, because she was a smart woman. Kasimov Genghissid offered the Valikhanovs, Wale Khan's descendants, to join the uprising, but they were loyal to the White Tsar and refused. The close kinship of Bopai and Genghissid to Aiganim, she was married to their uncle Wale Khan, added to the drama of the entire situation. The woman was educated, spoke several Oriental languages, possessed the poetic talent and wisdom of an experienced politician. After her husband's death, Khan Shah Aiganim led Valikhanov's clan. She secured the construction of manor, mosque, school, and a mill at state's expenses and received the lands of Sinimbet tract on the Ishim River in her full possession. The ruler advocated for cooperation with Tsarist authorities. In some ways, she has even adopted a Russian lifestyle. Thanks to this, she managed to preserve part of the power for herself and her descendants, the power that the disgraced Genghissids have lost. Her letters and other documents are still kept in Russian archives. She asked to build her a house and a mosque in her estate, or as the Kazakhs would say, kustau. Since the Kazakhs didn't possess the skills for woodwork, she asked to send craftsmen for construction. And this petition, by the way, was considered at all levels. Kokshetau, Omsk, Petersburg, it even reached the Tsar. In 3 years, she hosted a housewarming party in her estate. This quick reaction to her request is explained by the fact that, as it was written in her reports, Khan Shah Aiganim wanted to become closer to the Russian borders, and that such a noble and prominent clan could not be ignored. The thing is, it was the time of the uprising. Genghissid Kasimov fought for 10 years, and before that his father, his grandfather Kasim, and his brother were fighting too. Altogether, the uprising lasted for 25 years non-stop, same as Shamil's uprising in the Caucasus. That is why the Russian government was attentive to her request and quickly fulfilled it. It was through Aiganim that some political, economic, and other relations with local Kazakhs were arranged. Aiganim's political success resulted in the creation of a new district in the Middle Juz, the district that for many years was ruled by her son, Chingiz. It is interesting that even after the Khan's power was abolished, the the Russian administration continued calling Ayganim Han Shah in their correspondence. She used to seal her signature with her husband's seal. Thus, the Genghissid has technically become the last Kazakh ruler who was recognized by the Russian Empire in Khan's capacity. After the refusal, Genghissid, as a true man, didn't want to raise his hand to a woman, so he sent his sister to punish Ayganim. Moreover, he wanted her to confiscate her property and so on. Bopai Khanim stole Ayganim's cattle, raided her estate, burnt it, and since then, the estate wasn't rebuilt. It is awesome. In this sense, back then, women were more perceptive and were psychologically polished diplomats and politicians. And the woman was capable of doing things without bringing a great shame on all Genghissids. She was capable of doing things bloodless. This is great. Moreover, according to the records we know about Genghissid's personality, he was straightforward, and his last days are the proof to it, as well as the things that happened between him and the Kyrgyz. If only he was more diplomatic, it is possible that he wouldn't have done this, or he could have found a different way. But insulting and humiliating, he found his own death. According to the legend, Bopai has said, "Do not go against the Kyrgyz or you will die." And Genghissid has died there indeed. Genghissid went to the Kyrgyz in order to unite Kyrgyz and Kazakh forces against their advancing opponent, and not because of his own military endeavors. Same as the Kazakhs, the Kyrgyz had their own supporters, pro-Russian supporters. Genghissid was excessively trusting. He tried to approach his brothers, and a bunch of traitors ambushed him, and so he died. What happened to rebellious Bopai after Genghissid's death still remains a mystery. Has she ever met Ayganim after raiding her estate in Sirimbet is unknown too. Few people know that despite the fact that the Han Shah was loyal to the authorities, she actively opposed the advancement of Russians into the Kazakh steppe. She would report Cossacks who felled timber and mowed grass in the places of migrations. Cossacks who built log cabins and made winter camps without the permission of sultans and beys. The authorities investigated those cases and prohibited Cossacks' arbitrariness. The last Kazakh Khan Shah died in 1857 when she was 70. In a couple of years, another reform happened in Kazakhstan, with the steppe divided into oblasts managed by Russian governors. Over time, Ayganim's efforts were forgotten, and her descendants were deprived of their right to own lands that once belonged to the Han Shah. By that time, Genghissid Kasimov's uprising was put down. The Tsarist regime didn't need her services anymore. She was one of the most influential white Tsar's vassals. And this was how the destinies of two Genghissid women, Bopai and Ayganim, collided. It was tragic, but in some ways, natural. While two Genghissid women were stepping out of the political arena, another female ruler in Kyrgyzstan faced a choice. Her name was Kurmanjan. The nomad woman was born at the foot of the Alai Mountains, near the city of Osh. She was married to a rich feudal lord, had 5 sons with him, and was his loyal assistant and advisor. At the age of 50, Kurmanjan was widowed. She inherited a right to rule the Alai Kyrgyz and the army of 10,000 Jigits. The Kokand Khan and the Emir of Bukhara had to acknowledge Kurmanjan as the queen and give her a title, Datka. She became one of the few females to ever rule a Muslim state. In 1876, Russian troops invaded the territory of the Khanate of Kokand. The sons and tribesmen of the Alai queen fiercely resisted Russian units. But the forces were unequal. In order to preserve her people, Kurmanjan Datka had to announce the joining of the lands of the Alai Kyrgyz to the Russian Empire. In return, she secured a pardon for the rebels. Her sons were appointed to manage the newly formed Volost of Governorate General of Turkestan. Later, the Tsarist authorities accused one of her sons of smuggling and killing the officials, and convicted and sentenced him to death. Kurmanjan's request for pardon was rejected. So the mother came to the execution in order to support her son. Today we can remember dozens of women who have become leaders after their husbands or husbands and sons' deaths.
Часто после смерти и мужа, и сына становились предводительницами.
The last and the most prominent one was a Kyrgyz woman, about whom the Kyrgyz made a great film. Kurmanjan Datka, who lost both her husband and son, who led the uprising against the colonizers. They have played a massive role. Having made her choice, the ruler kept her word. She outlived 8 governor-generals. Each of them tried to visit her and express their respect. Kurmanjan was in touch with various Russian officials, assisting them in land studies. One of them, Karl Mannerheim, who later became the first president of Finland, took a picture of the Alai queen. She lived a long life and turned into a legend. According to their custom, in most cases, regardless of their nobility, they would take their wives and children with them when they went camping. They say that women are needed to take care of things like luggage, clothing, money, and other belongings. They exclusively have women pulling and erecting felt tents, receiving and unloading horses, carts, packs, and other things.
До сих пор нам, тайнами Великой Степи, остается.
Women of nomadic and semi-nomadic societies still remain a mystery of the Great Steppe. There is more information about life and work of female rulers and rulers' wives of the Horde and post-Horde periods. But the Great Steppe became great long before Genghis Khan. It was a society based on centuries-old traditions. It is known that Kazakh nation developed in the late Middle Ages. Its ethnogenesis is based on the Kipchak ethnos, as well as Naimans, Argins, Adais in the west, Jalairs and Naimans in the east, and the Wusun people in the south. Unlike their Chinese neighbors, the nomads did not record any names, dates, or events of their history. What if there were very few influential and extraordinary women in the steppe, and all talks about them are just myths? But the scholars beg to differ. What kind of amazing discovery awaits anyone who will turn to Shezhire, family tree of the Kazakhs? What toponyms have to do with that? And how the cult of the beautiful lady was inferior to the cult of the Virgin in the steppe. In the 7th century, on the territory of modern Jitisu, the son of the leader of Wusun tribes married a girl called Guljamal. For her golden hair, she was called Sara.
Случилось так, что Байдибек был в походе.
Jibek was on a campaign,
Враги совершили нападение на аул.
and the enemies attacked his village and stole his cattle.
Сара Байбище, который создал
Sari Baibishia. By that time, she already possessed Baibishia status.
Сара. То есть она
Sara meant Sari, ginger, light-haired. Also, Sari meant stream. She was very strong.
очень сильная была. Она же такой сильный характер. И крепкая она была.
According to the record, she was physically strong too.
По описанию. Вот в результате этой погони
As a result of this pursuit, 6 sons of Baidibek B and Sara Baibishia
свои
have
головы
died in one of those fights.
6 сыновей Сары.
The pass where 6 sons of Sari Baibishia have fallen is still called Alti Sari
Называется Алта-Сара.
and is located in the Karatau Mountains.
Но в погоне как бы
The fight continued, and 3 more sons have died.
трое сыновей погибли в том бою.
That place where her last 3 sons perished
Последний
is called Kuyuk Pass.
называется Кюйк-перевал.
Having survived the grief, Sari Baibishia carried and gave birth to another son and then raised her grandson.
Именно
It was descendant of Baidibek B and Sari Baibishia,
вообще фактически ее
her grandson brought up by his grandparents, who later became the founder of the Turgesh Khaganate.
Хаганата.
Tales of the Wusun ruler have become part of Kazakh folklore. A famous Kazakh, Akin Jambul Jabayev, composed a song about Sari Baibishia, and also about Baidibek B's youngest wife, who was known as Domalak Ana. She was very obliging and a kind woman. Several Kazakh clans sprang from her blood. It is interesting that entire tribes were called after the names and nicknames of female nomads. Sometimes the names of prominent women became the battle cry of the clan. So the story of the Wusun female rulers is just another example of the female face of power.
В Алматинской области есть мавзолей Домалахана.
There is Domalak Ana Mausoleum in Almaty region, and there is Sari Baibishia Monument in the village near Almaty.
Байбище. Мемориал большой.
Another big memorial dedicated to Sari Baibishia and Baidibek B is located in the Turkestan region.
Сар Байбище и Байдибек Би.
Many have heard of the cult of the beautiful lady that was born in medieval Europe. However, long before that, feminine beauty, courage, wisdom, and motherhood were glorified in the vast steppes. Rivers, mountains, and stars were called after women. Poems and songs were dedicated to them. Monuments were erected in their honor.
В Европе культ женщины и признание и
In Europe, the cult of the women, their recognition and equality were evolving much later than in the steppe.
мавзолеи, как
Mausoleums dedicated to great women are considerably older than the ones in Europe.
чем в Европе. Где вы
Did
видите,
you ever see any monuments dedicated to women in Europe?
допустим, там даже в
Neither in the Middle Ages nor in the Renaissance there were any monuments erected in women's honor.
Возрождении нет. Нет и в новое
They have only appeared during the New Age, tombs of female rulers, queens, but not monuments. And in the steppe, mausoleums are considered as monuments.
выполняют роль памятника. Это выше.
It was the greatest honor to construct a mazar,
И это
and it was a thing in the steppe from the very beginning.
к женщине в степи
And initially, women were respected more in the steppe than in Europe.
в Европе.
The steppe female rulers were the women who led clans, tribes, and states. Often their power wasn't open and obvious, but they were always ready to stand up for the honor of their people and did everything to continue life in the Great Steppe.